Goodnight Mommy is a 2014 Austrian psychological horror film starring Suzanne Wust. I apologize for butchering her name. And two, I guess, twin brothers, Lucas and Elias. And Lucas and Elias are just playing themselves, essentially. They didn't give them different names in the movie. They just have the same names as themselves in real life, which probably helps the actors a little bit. The film is quite notable for some of the unnerving imagery in the trailer. I think most people get bought in by the power of the trailer. Essentially, the mom goes and gets some kind of surgery, cosmetic or otherwise. It's left to the imagination, but there's evidence in the film that we can presume that it was cosmetic surgery. And she comes back, and the mom is different. Now, we don't have any point of reference to compare the mother to, so we're left from the boy's perspective, in media res essentially, trying to assess if this is their mom or not. And that is kind of confounded with the strange behavior that all of the characters are kind of given direction to perform their roles under. If you ever seen a Yorgos Lanthimos film, the way the characters behave in those movies, it's kind of similar to that, where everyone is kind of stiff and rigid and speaking almost in a matter-of-fact sense without actually having a lot of emotion behind what they're saying, except for moments of like incredible intensity. That's kind of how the performances are in this film. I wouldn't say that they're bad. I don't think that the film would work with other twin children. At the same time, there are moments that it feels like the film was directed in a way to make the children's performances not seem as weak as they are. The children are not evocative enough to have this little of a script. So one of the key features of the film is that there's not really a lot of dialogue, there's not really a lot of conversation, and there's a bit of an in-universe reason for this, but at the end of the day, it feels like the reason is that they didn't want the kids have to act very much. And a lot of acting is memorizing lines and then performing the lines. And performing the lines can be incredibly difficult. So if you just need to focus on being in the scene, because some of these scenes go on for quite a while. So I totally get that it appears they're working around the actors. They're working around the children and like how difficult it would be to perform in these roles as a child. I think that's what was going on. That's my total bullshit analysis. But in the film, in terms of like the broad strokes of like maybe acting I would say is weird. So it's like it's like off a chart. It's just weird. The music, there's not really any, except for like a few scenes. And even then it's incredibly minimalistic if there is any at all. There's atmospheric kind of noise at times, but not really any music. So once again, something that's kind of like off the chart somewhere else. But if I would rate it, I would probably rate it pretty lowly. And in terms of like the plot, unfortunately for this film, it did not. There's a big reveal for why the things happen in the movie. So if you watch the trailer, you're probably like, wow, what's going on? The mom's been replaced by this horrible bitch and she's crazy. Or maybe the kids are crazy. Maybe the kids are the bad guys. You know, maybe the mom's innocent and the kids are real assholes, you know? And you're watching the film and there's something that you begin to notice. There's a lot of hints throughout the film. This is going to get into the big spoiler warning. Turns out there's two twins, right? We see them playing. They're playing some shit in the beginning of the movie. And then fast forward a bit, it's breakfast time. Oh no. Mom only made breakfast for one of the twins. And then one of the twins tells the other one, oh, you should just apologize. She didn't make you breakfast again. huh. Now, when you're first watching the film, Mom seems like a bitch. After you've watched the film, one, Mom's probably hopped up on pain meds and has this horrific, like, you know, she had this, like, cosmetic surgery because she's, like, a news anchor. And apparently, she's getting divorced. There was an accident. The twin brother, Lucas, died in some kind of tragic plane accident out in the lake. And that's what people have said online. I'm not sure of the evidence of that. There is one part when they're playing where the Elias is like counting and he's like on a raft and he's kind of like, he's like counting to a bunch of numbers and it seems like he's waiting for something that isn't going to happen. So people have taken that to presume that Elias was waiting for Lucas, who drowned, and he goes out into the lake and is just depressed. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, Lucas is dead. The whole movie, Elias and Lucas are not actually there together. And a lot of the scenes make a lot more sense because a lot of the times Lucas will never be addressed by their characters. But it makes sense because how they frame and shoot things, there isn't really room for Lucas to be there anyway. Like Lucas is like in the background in a chair or somewhere else. Like they don't both need to be there. And like, obviously it seems like Lucas is maybe more of the skittish kids. So he like, well, Elias seems like he's more of the coward and he feels like he's being egged on by Lucas, but Lucas also isn't real. So it's a bit interesting in terms of like what's happening. So the question is does the twist make the film better? I feel like the twist was really the only way that this film could go in terms of budget. They probably just didn't have a budget to do a more fantastical justification or a more complex justification because they would have had to have done that so much sooner to explain the mom swap or whatever the fuck could have happened. You know, so something in the trailer is the mom is shown walking out in the woods and she's like takes all of her clothes off and she does like a Jacob's ladder, head fucking all over the place kind of thing. Every scene in the trailer is a dream sequence from the children about how they're psychologically imagining what's happening, or their moments from like the end of the movie. So one of the things is like Elias adopts this cat, but he doesn't feed the cat and the cat dies. Elias thinks his mom killed the cat. So then Elias takes the cat, he gets rid of his like cockroach terrarium and puts the cat in it with water. And for the mom, this movie has to be fucking horrifying because your son, whose twin brother drowned, has now put a dead cat in the middle of your living room in a fucking fish tank. Presumably you think it seems like your kid drowned the cat. Like, it's fucking crazy. What the fuck is happening? So, like, there's these scenes that are out of context in the trailer that make the movie seem like it's going to be a lot more like WTF than it is. Because all the WTF scenes are mostly dream sequences. And if they're not dream sequences, they're not really expounded upon. Nothing's really expounded upon in this movie. At one point, the Red Cross like breaks into the home because it's, quote, unlocked, and they're just like begging for donations. Like, that seems so weird. I mean, they're trying to create a sequence where like the mom can scream for help, but like help is like right there, but the help can't get to her. They're trying to make a sequence like that in a lot of these like, you know, tied up whatever kind of movies. So yeah, but does the twist help or hurt the film? I think it ties the film up. I think it ultimately hurts the film though, because the problem is that it's another film where mental illness is the cause of the problems. And there's already a better film of this. Well, not really mental illness, I should say, is mental illness is the cause of the problems in this film. But there's a better version of this film that already exists called Hereditary. In Hereditary, there is a component of family drama that goes on that is in tandem with the everyone, you're all going to die down here plot of like the cultists. And both are great. Both are set up well. And the drama one is so much more woven into the film. And because it has to be. Because it's more mundane. And so it has to be more better written. When you're writing things that are fantastical, you can, you know, it doesn't have to be as like believable or like strongly written or as dense because it's fantastical. Like we don't have things to compare it to relatively to, you know, our own experiences to like fact check how bullshit fantastical things are. You know, if there's a cultist who's running down the street trying to kill children with a knife, oh, well, of course that's what a cultist would do. But if there's a woman who is running down the street with a knife trying to kill people and is just a woman, we wouldn't believe that. She would have to be like really pressed, like, oh, maybe there would have to be some justification, you know, for that. And to write a justification without fantasy is very difficult because you have to really add more and more realistic layers to this person's life to make an explanation of why they're doing these things. This is why the movie We Need to Talk About Kevin just doesn't work, because the movie is basically there's just a kid who's evil and he's just like really shitty, but then there's like kind of like a twist where like maybe he's not evil and maybe the mom was bad or maybe they're both bad. But either way, like the kid character who like grows up is just like seems like a fucking crazy person like he literally kills his parents and goes on a bow shooting spree in the school. Like, I mean, it's pretty safe to say he's pretty evil regardless of whatever abuse happens. Like, I'm sorry, but like your abuse doesn't allow you to just kill innocent people, because like the dad I'm pretty sure was innocent, and the daughter too, and his sister, I'm pretty sure she didn't do anything bad. It was just the mom. Well, yeah, okay, great. So, but like there is no explanation in the movie like why the things happen. It's kind of like an after the fact kind of thing, and things are just happening and they're just stupid. It's stupid because there's nothing, like the movie would have been better if he was possessed by a demon, even though I hate that explanation. It's lazy, but we could believe it because like, oh, okay, the demons possess him. He just needs to get excised or killed or whatever. And then it won't matter anymore. But like, he doesn't have that agency. When a normal person is with their agency choosing to do something crazy, you really need to write why that's happening. And Hereditary does that. This movie just has things happening and you're like, huh, what? And then like about the 3/4 part of the film, basically when the Red Cross showed up and then when they also went to like the church, I'm like, oh, nobody's talking to the other kid. I was like, is the other kid really there? And then, yeah, at the end of the film, it has like the drama moment where she's like, oh, I'll pretend Lucas is alive. Which I thought like that would, I feel like the mom would have made that consolation so much sooner. Like she is pissing herself in the bed. Her cosmetic surgery is getting ruined. She is like getting her mouth glued shut. Like her son is essentially like torturing her and ruining her surgery. And she's just like not willing to make the like, I'll pretend that Lucas is alive, or like, oh, Lucas wouldn't, like she doesn't do anything to like manipulate the situation. She does nothing to free herself. She just says like, oh, please cut me loose. And like, that's it. And it just feels like she's written stupidly for the sake of like dragging out the torture, which just feels really dumb in hindsight. Because it's very sparsely written. The plot, the script is incredibly minimalistic. A lot of the scenes just linger, which I like. I like that kind of filmmaking. I like when the shots linger on things. I like when you're left to simmer on and reflect on what you've seen. The problem is that like there isn't enough script to chew on with like what the characters say. It's mostly just like, where is our mom? You're not our mom. Prove that you're our mom. And then the twin boys just kind of look at each other a lot of the times, and it's a series of just things happening. And by the time you get to the end where there's the big dramatic reveal, and then the mom's like, you know, I'll pretend that Lucas is alive and I'll make 2 breakfasts or whatever, and I'll set 2 things for you guys. Like, in hindsight, that's really stupid because like, why would she say that she's going to pretend that Lucas is alive? If she's actually playing into it, she should be like, I'm sorry, I've been ignoring Lucas. I'll start setting his plate again. You know, I'll start doing this or that. But like she plays into like this. She's written as if she's explaining it to the audience, but not rationally saying it from her character point of view. So like this movie had the potential of having a big dramatic scene that would have been a bit like heart-wrenching and emotionally driven and dramatic, the same way Hereditary does. Well, Hereditary wasn't really heart-wrenching, but in this film it would have been because it's tragic. But it was written from the perspective of explaining it to the audience. This film feels like it's a film written like for audiences like a decade earlier that like the movie feels like it's too smart for them, so they need to explain it, but like explain it in a way that's like for the dumbest members of the audience, which is weird because this isn't like a traditional film. It doesn't feel like it's a commercial product. It feels like it's more of like an artly driven product. And part of my justification for that is that the directors and writers, two directors, and also they're the same two writers, I believe, are these two people. I assume they're in, oh no, they have different last names. My apologies. But it's written and directed by two people. The same two people are writers and directors. Like, so it's a cooperative venture, and which is usually unheard of. And I mean, I don't know, it didn't gross a lot. It distributed in Venice. You know, if your film, the first place of reveal is Venice, then you got an artsy fartsy movie, you know, generally. So I don't know. For an artistic movie, I don't feel like it's as smart as the artist. It's not as smart as like, let's say, Under the Skin. Under the Skin is like is smart. It doesn't like explain, like there's not like a character that comes in and explains the things in the movie as if it needs to explain it to the audience. And like this movie, like I got it before the reveal that Lucas was dead. And so I feel like it's a necessary component because they didn't set up anything else as to be an alternative explanation, but they also didn't add enough script, conversation, dialogue. We didn't see enough of the mom. The film is, we didn't see enough of the mom to like kind of provide a dramatic response, like for it to be a drama. So ultimately we're just kind of left with like weird kids being weird and doing weird things, and like there are some moments where it feels like the kids are about to have a giggle fit, like they just barely held their composure for the scene before the director yells cut. It feels like there's a lot of scenes like that with the two kids, which is takes me out of the film a lot, like but also the part of it is like this like the European weirdness, like, you know, this film, I feel like it plays up this like rural European mysticism, like this just kind of like everybody's like weird. Everyone's just like very stilted. They're very, like they're almost like NPC characters. Like they have very few lines of dialogue that they can give back in response to anything. And any other extra dialogue would be like, you know, they can't say it because it just doesn't exist. The writer didn't write it for them to have it. Like, I can't imagine any of these scenes happening any differently because there's so little to go on other than the mom character. Now, that being said, there is a lot of depth with the mom character and understanding her position. And that was the thing that like made the movie more interesting to me, is like thinking constantly about what does this look like from the mom's perspective? Pull away. The best way to watch this movie is fuck the kids. You're going to get the kids' perspective the whole fucking movie. Focus on what this experience is like for the mom. And then that's where your real horror movie is, because ultimately this is a way worse experience for the mom than it is for the kids, for the kid. Anyway, so like, and I was doing that from the beginning because I was curious. Like, clearly the movie wants you to be like, oh, the kids, you know, the mom is scary, she looks scary, but it's like, you know, she's probably on pain meds. She just came out of this whatever thing. We learned out later on that she's getting a divorce. you know, and we also learn way later on that one of her kids died. So like she probably is just like doesn't want to tolerate this bullshit anymore, and she doesn't have the energy for it. So she's just being a little rude at times, you know? And like the main kid is so sad because like, oh, you know, I remember my mom being loving, and it's like, you know, people got shit that changes them, you know, losing a child, getting a separation, divorce, you know, being a TV anchor and your looks fading and needing, like she's got so much psychological stress going on. It makes sense why she's being not A+ super mom for the period of her recovery. That totally makes sense. Not that it's justified, but it makes sense. And through that lens, I think then the movie is recaptures some of the drama and some of the tragedy and makes the ending a little better, but still ultimately I feel like kind of falls flat, doesn't really reach the heights that the trailer goes to. The trailer is the best part of the movie, unfortunately, because it has all the WTF scenes, and none of the WTF scenes are ever explained because, like I said, they're all just dream sequences, except for the ones that aren't, and then those ones also just aren't explained. Like, her son feeds her a cockroach. Why? It's really weird. And then, like, she's, like, getting rid of the cockroaches, but I think she was getting rid of the cockroaches way after she got fed a cockroach. Or maybe the cockroach feeding was in a dream, too. I don't know. There should have been more weird. The mom should have been weird. The mom should have also been, like, I guess more weird than she was, because she's only weird in the dream sequences, and then she's just kind of brood and things. So, I don't know. For what the film is, for how the film is shot, I do like the film. Ultimately, for me, it falls flat. In my earnest score, I would say it's like a 4, but I think like in a general perspective, I have to give it some credit for doing things that I do like. I think the child actors are terrible, but they were really worked with to get the decent performances out of them. But I think they're pretty terrible because I don't think that they can hold their composure in a full scene. They really seem like they're about to fall into like a giggle fit at times. Like, it really doesn't work. I would never advocate for more cutting in a movie, but maybe they should have to like prevent that, because it's hard to watch some of the lingering scenes because it looks like they're about to like go into a giggle fit. It just pulls me out so much. So I don't know. It's like a 6 or 5, I guess, depending on how you're feeling. If you like horror movies, I think it's worth a watch because it's a unique horror film. If you're a general movie fan, don't watch it. This is like really like a horror fans only kind of thing, and just for the originality of it, I would say. But it doesn't do anything new, unfortunately. So kind of languishes in mediocrity, I would say. But yep, this has been my review. I'm Borelstein. You know, if you're still here, leave a comment saying how stupid I am, if you're Chinese, definitely say that I do fentanyl and that my mom fucks black guys. Be sure to get those comments in. That was some of my favorite time making a review of a movie ever. And, well, thanks for watching, I guess, too. And blow me.